Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. This is episode number 100, number 100. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We have been doing this now for I think about 17 months or so, and it's been an absolute pleasure and joy. The best part of for me is to wind down and stuff like that. Some people it's to relax on the couch. Some people it's read a good book, have some coffee. For me, it's to talk sports with my brother. And so I'm just so grateful that we get to do this twice a week, more often than not. So thank each one of you. We already got 13 likes before the video even started today. So that's
love
really
that.
cool.
Love that. Hit that subscribe button and of course that notification button as well. And listen, the day cannot begin until Laura Carson says hello. So I'm just going to sit here until that happens.
All right. Dead air.
Hey, Mike.
Thank you, Laura, for saying hello. And those that are looking for the intro stuff, we're still going to do all that, but we're going to have our guests come on and then we'll throw that on there as well. So just wanted to, but thank you, Mike, for joining us. Mike and Darren on the 100th. Thank you so much. And Mike Sr. Is actually in New York. He went to the game yesterday for the Mets and the Angels game 3. And I think my cousin Wendy also was at the same game yesterday. And then I believe yesterday also, or today, he did the Sopranos tour.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. So, yeah. So, what do you call it? But yeah, so we are going to, as you saw in the thumbnail, if you did it, that's okay. We have 2 guests coming on tonight.
Amazing guests. Amazing.
There's a Chicago tie-in here, first and foremost. Let's just say that. So super excited. We did have one of these guests on before, but Darren, we weren't able to make that one. So we got the whole gang here. So what I'm going to go do, without further doubt, I'm going to go ahead and have our first one jump on. We'll chat for a minute. We'll have our other guest, then we'll do the intro. So please, guys, the best way to make this fun is to interact with us in the chat, ask us questions. Even if you know nothing about the topics we're talking about, go ahead and throw random questions in there. We'll answer them too. There's none of that, need a super chat for us to read your comment. We'll read all the comments. As long as they kept PG or PG-13. So without further ado, let me add Christopher to the chat. Hello, Christopher.
Love that man. Love that man.
Greetings, guys. Okay, so first of all, things that you hear on a podcast, there's no dying on a podcast.
That's right.
It may not have the same ring as there's no crying in baseball, but it works. Now, when I heard that I was going to be on tonight, I was very excited. I love Darren. Mike, it's great to see you. But then I hear that Mike North is going to be on, and I'm like, why the hell am I here?
What do you mean?
When my wife and I moved to Chicago, Mike was just getting started, and it was very clear that he was going to have a big career. He's great. I'm delighted to share an evening with him and with both of you, and congratulations on your 100th. It's not easy to in the podcast space, much less my space, which is radio, to make your mark, but you guys are doing a great job, so bravo to both of you.
Thank you so much for those kind words. And you know this to be true because we're friends offline, as people say, as the kids say. I just follow the good habits that you do. It's that simple. Seriously.
Well, I appreciate that. I had a great mentor, and Mike would know who this is. I had a great mentor in Minneapolis at KFAN, Dan Barrero. And Dan is in the Minnesota Broadcast Hall of Fame. He's 3 to 6:30 on the Fan in Minneapolis. And I learned from him. I learned so much from him about how to structure a show. One of his great lessons was be selective in your savagery. So I've always been selective in my savagery, but I've also operated with one very basic mantra, and that is discourse, not discord. We can battle and fight and argue, but you can still be respectful and you can still be civil and you can still dig deep. And then at the end of the day, go have a beer and a pizza and come back the next day and talk with the same person.
1,000%. And that's what we do every day.
That's what a great comment and to start this. And that was awesome. And so before we get into all the plenty of stuff that we're going to talk about here tonight, let's add the other guest of honor, Mike North, to the podcast. Welcome, sir.
Mike North!
I made it. I did this myself. I'm very proud of myself.
Not only did you make it, Mike, I saw you on there at 7:47-ish or something like that. That's awesome.
I'm not taking any chances, guys. You got to the studio, a guest would come in, and I want to say hi to Chris And of course, to Darren and everybody, it's good to see you guys. Yeah, it's just a different time now. I mean, I never dreamt that, and I'm sure you guys didn't 30, 35 years ago. Oh, someday you're going to be in your house, you'll have a computer. I mean, when I started, and I'm sure when you guys, we didn't have computers. You had to know what you were talking about without the computers. Now, everywhere you go, any TV show you see or any radio show, these guys got these big computers in front of me. That's not the way it was, but I'll tell you what, it's great to be with you guys and to BS a little tonight.
Darren, can I share a quick moment with Mike?
Please do.
So, Mike, I had to tell you, my wife and I moved to Chicago. We moved back to Chicago in 1990.
Nice.
We used to live at Hawthorne and Lakeshore down the street, a block away from the Belmont Diner by Wrigley.
Right.
And I grew up in Rogers Park. You grew up in Edgewater, right?
I grew up in Rogers Park, Edgewater, and I was a vendor at Wrigley Field in '69. I told my father, you know what, I was dropping out of high school anyway. I said, you know, the Cubs are going to be in the World Series in October, Dad. And my dad says, are you sure? I go, well, they got a big lead in July. I said, no way. I mean, I'm going to make plenty of money. I was selling Cokes for 25 cents a Coke. And back in '69, the place was packed. And on a doubleheader, I'd make $40. I was 16 years old. And then the Mets played like 700 baseball and the Cubs played like 480 baseball. And that was the end of that dream. So I only had to wait till 2016 for our World Series.
That's
right.
awesome.
My dad came from Hyde Park, from 63rd and Cottage Grove.
Awesome.
So we were always Sox fans. My grandfather, his dad, he came over from Cyprus, and he was a teacher at the University of Chicago. When the Depression hit, he owned and he started the old Seminary Diner across from DePaul, and he used to have as guests in there all the time. You remember the time of our history? He would welcome in the Chicago American Giants from the Negro League in there. So we go back. So you're on the north side, and I'm on the south side.
Well, what's funny is, guys, and we'll let them have their show back later.
No, listen, I'm doing this right now. I'm here.
Seminary
We're enjoying.
The Seminary Restaurant was a great restaurant on Fullerton and Lincoln Avenue, okay? And Ray Meyer used to go in there. All the DePaul players used to go in there. And Mark Aguirre, all the greats back in the day. And then Ray ended up having a restaurant. I don't know if it was the same restaurant. It only lasted a couple of years. But, yeah, I mean, Chicago back then and now is still a great city, very cosmopolitan, but a lot of blue-collar people. And the Seminary Restaurant was one of those.
Yeah, Darren, Mike will really appreciate this when people say to me, "Oh, you're from Illinois?" No, I'm from Chicago.
Right.
That's where I'm from Chicago.
I was in Vegas one time. I'm playing blackjack, and some guy goes to me, "Where are you from?" I go, "Chicago." I go, "How about you?" "Yeah, me too." I go, "Where?" He goes, "Peoria." I go, "You're not from Chicago. You're 3 hours. No, you're 3 hours away."
I'm from the Florida area.
Right down 55. Yeah.
So if we don't say, like, there's a difference between like Cocoa Beach. We all know what Cocoa Beach is, but if we say Cocoa, that's a big no-no. It's Cocoa, and then there's Cocoa Beach. There's Vero, and then there's Vero Beach. There's
no beach. There's no beach in Cocoa, right?
No, definitely not. No, on the other side of the tracks.
There you go.
No.
And CG, you would know this from when your time in New York. Yonkers, you're not from New York. You're almost from New York. I get it. You might slide on a good day, but you're not from the city. You're just
if you're in Yonkers, you might as well be in Tuckahoe or Bronxville, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah, you're not. If you're not from the city, because that Yonkers is. Yeah, I mean, do they have good deli up there? You got to go to Katz's for that. So
Yeah.
So here's the one thing I want to do, Mike, before we begin, and this is a little joke I said to my head because I'm a nerd. First off, I got on my retro '86 Met jersey today, and I got all these different jerseys, right? Can I look more like Mike Cubbage right now?
I'll tell you what, I don't mean to be
horrible.
I don't mean to be cruel, Darren, but it's an '86 jersey. I was wondering if there's any cocaine residue on the jersey.
You know? There is just a little.
I mean, nobody talks about that team. They basically won the whole thing. Dykstra, Strawberry.
Yes.
They were blasted. And they beat teams that drank their milk. And, well, I'm not going to say that, but they beat a lot of good teams. And my God, that '86 team sticks out like a sore thumb. In fact, my argument is with all the Yankee teams, besides the '27 team and maybe the '61 team, the two biggest teams, in my opinion, in New York baseball history, the 1969 Mets and the 1986 Mets. They were as big as anything the Yankees have ever done, to be honest with you.
Huge.
Agreed.
And I don't think the Yankees ever sang anything on Ed Sullivan. So, you know.
Yeah.
Nope.
You gotta have heart.
So
Right.
what we're gonna do, this is a little unusual, is I wanted to kind of have you guys jump on first, and so
Sure.
we're gonna go ahead and kind of do things a little bit backwards. We're gonna go ahead and run our intro video just to get that aired out. That'll show real quick. Then as soon as we come back, we're gonna have Darren read our sponsor read from our folks at Nashville Tax Solutions, and then I have a little something planned, and then right after that, we're gonna get into all the good stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and without further ado, I'm gonna hit that intro, and then we'll join back here in about 45 seconds. We're back live once again, and so those wondering what that countdown is for, we had a fun. If you watched our episode or our 3,000 subscriber episode party, we had several different guests spread out throughout the show, and I didn't let Darren know a single one of them. They were all returning guests or some new ones. So every 10 or 15 minutes or so, we'd bring a new guest on. We do the countdown, and the person would appear on the screen, and so we just kind of left it in there. It's been fun.
I love it.
Cool.
But so guys, before we talk about all the fun stuff and all the good things, Darren, I'll have you read the sponsor read, and then I want to do something on my end, and then we'll get started. So if you wouldn't mind just telling the good folks about Nashville Tax Solutions.
So I just want to say this about Nashville Tax Solutions. They didn't believe in us before they had any reason to. There was nothing to believe in. They just took a gamble with us. And Nashville Tax Solutions has been sponsoring, I think, maybe all 100 of these episodes, which is an amazing thing. And, do the math. It adds up quick. And Chris Bennett and his people are worth every dime. They're wonderful people. And Palm Bay and Fort Pierce, are tax problems weighing you down? You're behind on filings, facing a lien? Nashville Tax Solutions here with the expertise and dedication you need. Their experienced team handles the IRS so you don't have to. But don't just hear from us. Clients say it best. Things like Chris Bennett and his team turned a nightmare into peace of mind. They're sharp, they're honest, and they truly care. So don't let stress take over your life. Call 855-627-4829 and visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com or email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com today. Nashville Tax Solutions, real help and real results. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Darren. And so one thing I have to do, if you've watched the show, although we're primarily a sports podcast here, we do cover other things. And Mike, if you might not know, and Christopher, I think I mentioned this to you before, the name Around the Ballpark, it came from, yes, we are doing mostly baseball content or sports-related content. But on the way to the ballpark, we talk about other things. It's not just the game we're about to go to or the game we're about to watch. So we thought, let's call it Around the Ballparks. That way we can talk about some other things every once in a while, have a specialty episode. So as you know, I'm a big wrestling guy and have always been. And so I'd be remiss here to speak on behalf of Mr. Hulk Hogan there, 71 years young. And you guys are seeing that on your end, correct? Sometimes
Yes.
on my end. Okay. So what I thought it would be just kind of cool to do, just take a couple seconds here. And don't worry, these are not copyrighted videos, but I'm going to go ahead and just play a little tribute, some photos of some of Hulk Hogan's best moments in his career. So let me get that going here as that music begins. And let that go, just to kind of honor him a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but little Santa Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
One of his biggest rivals, Paul Orndorff.
Paul Orndorff was great.
Yes, we got
That's when he was.
Hogan and Red
Mean.
and Hart there.
Yeah.
This was one of the most recent appearances. Hogan was dressed as a pirate and was Canadian. I was there with Mike with us in the chat. And of course, this is his famous meat shop there. Great feud that was. Undertaker was young 60s, early 90s. First looking and
Shea Stadium.
That's from WrestleMania 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Body slam around the world.
Wow.
In the movies, body would get that inside. And no hold bar there. Right there. And of course, Houston, Hogan, Trinidad, of course, Bud World Order, I would go for there he is, and this and the Mega Power of it. It's Real American Beer that the tour of is part of the top of the Hall of Fame. And my other brother, Tommy, there. And there. And not there as well. On Bundy. But one of the most important photos here is this photo right here. Not right. So yeah, just wanted to share a little bit about that there, and on my end. So yeah, it was just to really recap this morning. Of course, shocking news. I know we heard some stuff, some rumblings the last couple of weeks. But they really kind of kept things under wraps and weren't making things public. I know he didn't really post anything since April. So it did still come as a shock. And, of course, everyone went live right after that happened for the instant reaction. And that's when, there's a lot of toxicity on X and YouTube and things like that. But when people come together, it stinks that it has to be under those circumstances. But, most people can separate the bad, because there were some bad here in the last 15 years or so, but most people can recognize him for his accomplishments and the impact. So just wanted to go around the panel here before we talk about all our other fun stuff, and just your quick thoughts on Hulk Hogan there. Starting with you, Mike, because I have, let me see here. I have something here. I thought it was right there. Let me put that up there. So
is it the picture I put up today?
Yes, that one.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, what's funny is he's younger than me. I'm 72 and he was 71. And he came to the studio, and our studio was in a neighborhood type of setting. It wasn't downtown Chicago. It was on Belmont Avenue, which I'm sure Chris is familiar with, Belmont, and around Cicero. And we've had Jordan in the studio. I'm friends with Jordan, Walter Payton, Gail Sayers. I can drop all night long, like Lionel Richie, about the people that have been in that studio. Literally, Hulk Hogan was one of the biggest people that's ever been there. My wife doesn't even like pro wrestling. I was a pro wrestling fan, but back in the day, the Bruiser, the Crusher, for you New York people, Bruno Sammartino, all these other people, old school guys. He put fannies in the seats. He took wrestling mainstream. He made wrestling. My wife would say, "Oh, there's Hulk Hogan." She wouldn't say that for anybody else, When he would be on a TV show, he raised wrestling higher. Ric Flair was more of the adult type of wrestling champ. The adults loved him. But Hulk Hogan was the hero that I think kids are missing nowadays. When we were kids growing up, there was plenty of heroes. Hulk Hogan's the guy that would pick a guy up, slam him, and then tell the kids to drink their milk and eat their vitamins. And the kids all looked up to him, and it was just a shock to me today. One last thing before we go over to Chris, I just remember we brought in some food from Sabatino's, a restaurant on Irving Park Road right by the studio. And all he said is, "Boy, this is good, brother. Is this homemade? Is this homemade?" I go, "Yeah, Hulk, it's homemade. I'd like to go." And then I got the idea, can't you go for about an hour? Can't we leave the studio? Because my dream was to walk into a bar with Hulk Hogan. But he had so many people with him, we couldn't do it. But that's really what I want to do. Great guy, great for wrestling. He became baptized later on, found God, had some issues like Chris says, But as far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest wrestler or greatest wrestling icon, in my opinion, that's ever lived.
Yeah, I concur with that for sure. And I think the only thing that I could add to that is I'll offer a parallel. You think about Hollywood, you think about the plethora of actors, and then there are the stars that are bigger than life, the names above the marquee, going back to the Clark Gables and the Clint Eastwoods and stuff. That was him. He transcended sports. It was wrestling, and there was Hulk Hogan. And what always struck me, and Mike, you probably learned this, the fact that you met him face to face, is that he did stuff in communities. He did stuff for, as you said, for kids. He did stuff for hospitals, for charities. There weren't enough hours in the day for him, and that's what I loved about them. He never forgot who got him to where he was at and who kept him where he was at. Not only for his amazing entertainment value, but he cared about the people that cared about him. And I think that's what my takeaway is with him. I always wanted to meet him because he just seemed like a good guy. I tried the ripping T-shirt once. I even cheated a little bit, like 45 seconds.
You could do that on tape show, but a live show, they probably cut the crowd or something.
Yeah, just a great guy.
So my one thing that I'll add to that, and you can't really add to, you both said it beautifully, and Mike, thank you for putting that together, is in 1980, I know I sent you a picture of it, I was at Shea Stadium.
Yes.
When Andre and the Hulk fought. It was called the Shea Stadium Showdown, and it was exactly what happened in WrestleMania 3. It was sort of a run-through, like, will this pop, this sell? And it didn't get the amount of coverage, obviously, that WrestleMania 3 did, nor should it. But it was just like, and how these people respected the process. And again, Chris, because I know Chris a lot longer than I know you, Mike, we would talk about this. They respected the fan. They respected the fan.
That's right.
When they were on stage, they were on stage, like you two gentlemen do. When that mic is on, you respect your audience. They respected the fan. That's all I have to say about that.
And I've just posted that comment. My wife is here in the chat with us, and this is a true fact. It was only one, but her mom actually went on a date with Hulk Hogan here. And so just the one.
You want to see what the Hulkster's got cooking, lady?
Yes. And Laura, yes, it is the truth. We'll have to tell you the story next time we're in the office and go over all that. But yeah, no, true fact. The final thing I'll just tie in and we'll go, and Darren, I'll like for you to maybe grab a first topic here. But last thing I just want to share is not only did Hulk Hogan do that in the 80s and really bring, because before he did what he did, wrestling was a territorial thing. So they had territories all over the U.S. It wasn't until Hulk Hogan became mainstream that it brought it national attention, and boy, did it ever. And, it's a big difference now. Back in WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, 4, they were all about celebrities that knew nothing about the sport, but they just came to be there. Nowadays, your Logan Pauls and people like that come in, and their Jelly Roll, even, like, they're training hard every day to hone their craft. They don't want to just come on the TV and make a fool of themselves. But back then it was more common practice. But so that happened, and then he left, went to WCW. But not only did it do it once, but then in 96, of course, the infamous heel turn with the NWO, he got wrestling popular again because it went through a bad lull for a while. There was a lot of bad character names and things like that. And so he re-innovated the sport a second time. So how many people can do that 2 different times for 2 different promotions? And then, of course, we all know what happened. NWO, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Kurt Angle, all, Shawn Michaels, all these names that came from that. So it's just it's amazing.
And Macho Man was a friend of mine. He grew up in Downers Grove. His name was Randy Poffo. And he was a catcher in the St. Louis Cardinal organization when he first started out. Okay. And I saw him at the Super Bowl in Atlanta. And these guys couldn't get out of character. I go downstairs in the hotel to check out. And he's arguing about a movie that he didn't rent. He goes, "How you doing, Mike? Let me tell you something. There's no way, lady, that I rented that movie. Oh, no. I didn't rent that movie, so that Bill's got to." He was in his cowboy hat. He had the bandana. He's checking out at the Atlanta Omni. I'm going, are you kidding me? These guys, I mean, I think they had at times, I think they went, even if they were out having a couple drinks as regular guys, I think at times they weren't allowed to be themselves. Even if you saw them in a setting like a park or you saw them walking down the street, they had to become what everybody thought they were. the Hulkster and the Macho Man.
Yep, Hulkster and the Macho Man, and Eileen mentions there. Yeah, he was a bouncer at the Beach Shack, and her mom was a bartender there.
Oh boy,
back in the old days. So, Darren, floor is yours. If you wouldn't mind.
So I have two questions. I'll ask the first one now, and then I'll wait to the other one later. But I've mentioned this a million times on 100 episodes. I'm a process person, and we have two people with us. We're privileged to have with us who are craftspeople when it comes to process. And you've both been in this so long enough now. I mean, with Christopher, you started with the theater background and James Earl Jones and NYU and everything else. And Mike, everything that you've gone through and the years, and you've gone from literally tape and radio. And now there's so much going on and it's changing. You stay true to your craft, but you're not dinosaurs. You didn't stay stagnant. That's where people have wrote and die. Now you can just say, well, we stay professional with our craft, but it's really hard to do that. How do you change with the times, stay in front of your skis without falling over, but stay true to who you are at all times? And Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, that's a great question, and I think we always have our eyes on other people in the business. We're not imitating anybody, but we are just observing on how they're evolving, how sports are evolving, and how that fits in with how we do what we do. And I think for me, and I suspect Mike would feel exactly the same. For me, it starts with being me, being who I am, never trying to be anybody else. There's only one Mike North. There's only one Dan Barrero at the Fan, and there's only one of me. And I approach everything that way. And I mean, it's also, Mike was talking earlier about how when we started, there were no computers. There was no X and Twitter. There wasn't any of that. So to this day, I'm glad. I think about growing up in my dad's restaurants and working in fast food. And we had to figure out, make it a point here. We had to figure out the tax by hand with a pencil and a piece of paper there and then punch it in on the register. I'm glad that we learned how to do that. Similarly, the way I prep to this day is no different than I did 20 plus years ago. And that is, going to various sources, going to as many different sites that I can go to and just working through the process. There's that word, the same way every day, and always trying to, going back to my theater days, we used to always talk about testing and measuring. And you throw something out there, you take a chance in rehearsal, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're like a relief pitcher. You give up a bomb that goes out onto Sheffield, and you just keep going. And for me, humor is a big part of the show. Mike is a funny guy, and it's all about not being afraid to just try things, to go out and try things, because you might find something that's going to work. And it's also knowing it, and this is really, I think, important. If you're doing a segment every week and it starts to get stale because of me, or it's just get rid of it. Don't hold on to it because you love that it takes up 8 minutes. Get rid of it and find something more engaging for your audience and for yourself. So I think for me, long answer for a short, it starts and ends with me. Who am I? What am I bringing to the table? And make sure that I'm always evolving and always listening to people like Mike North and to others on what, because Mike might say something one day and Mike, what, how did I not know that? And it'll send me to something a little different. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
It does. And Mike, same question. And I mean, Christopher, now, I'm going to use the term. You dominate Central California radio. You keep winning awards. Mike, you've won 4 different times. You won the award. You are now premier when it comes to gambling. And you weren't late to that party and you weren't early. I mean, you hit it like right on time.
Right.
Talk about your process and how do you do that and stay relevant?
Well, I never have changed since I hung on the street corner talking to my buddies. We didn't have scripts. We didn't go, hey, now what are we going to talk about? We would just go and we would start talking and talking, whether it be about the Cubs, the Sox, what's going on. The Canadians are beating up on the Blackhawks back in the day, stuff like that. I changed to handicapping because my style was never going to change. So I do it under the guise of handicapping now. I've become a good handicapper. I worked hard at it. I had to prove myself. ESPN, the one place, because I was their rival for years. I mean, the Score started, I started at the Score, and we were against them for years. and now I work at ESPN 1000 and have a gambling show. But I'm no different. I remember I went to work at Fox Sports Radio with Andy Furman, the great Andy Furman from Cincinnati. And I took somebody's place who wasn't showing up on time. I can't even imagine. I've never been late. I have never been suspended. I cherish. I wanted to be on the radio just for one day. I wanted somebody to turn that knob, which they don't have anymore. I just went to look at a new Cadillac. You got to do this now. I said, I'm not buying that. But I never have changed my stripes. I think people have accepted it. I think I'm one of those rare birds that's allowed to say stuff because I've been around for 33, 34 years. But I couldn't do it without my wife. My wife, I had 3 businesses before I even got into radio. I didn't get into radio until I was 39 years old. But in those hot dog stands, those 3 stands that I owned, I'd see my customers, and that's where I continued my training. I would advise anybody in the media, the people in the media that think they're hot stuff, go work a week at retail. Talk to the people. That will make it better for you if and when you take phone calls or if and when you do stuff. But to me, I'm the same guy as I was when I was 10, 12 years old. Period. End of story. And I continue to prepare by just watching. By just watching TV, by watching radio. There's more information now than ever before. But that was a special time, the 90s, 2000. I mean, cell phones were just coming in. The computers weren't there yet. Cars saved sports radio in the 90s because people would turn their radio. People don't necessarily turn their radios on at home anymore. Where do they turn the radios on the most? When they get into their car. And that's what really made sports radio to me in the early 90s. By the way, quick side to Chris. I studied acting under David Mamet at the Steppenwolf Theater. And believe me when I tell you that. Memorizing to me, I can memorize what number this guy is or that guy is. Don't ask me to memorize a paragraph.
There's an immediate connection, Mike, because I did a play. One of the plays that I did off Broadway was his first play with the Atlantic Theater Company called The Questioning of Nick. And it was about a player named Nick who was a gambler and he was fixing games. And so that's the immediate time.
Oh,
I got to tell you, I on the lives of my daughters, one of the early reasons why I wanted to get in this business, but I didn't do it for a while, was listening to Monsters in the Morning with him and number 62, Jiggets.
Yeah.
Because I thought what I loved about their show, and it carries over to me to this day, is exactly what Mike just said. He's himself. He's himself. Right. He's himself. And these days, and there's probably a programmer listening that's going to be ticked off, and I really don't care. But a lot of these folks in suits, they want you to get into a certain box, right, Mike?
What they want you to do is what they think.
Exactly. And so many people who are making these decisions have never done what we do. They don't have any idea what we do any more than we know what they do. Right. So when I hear a guy like Mike doing his thing, it's like, you know what? I don't know if I could be as good as him, but I'd like to try that someday. It just took me a little longer.
Awesome. You're awesome, man. Absolutely. This whole show's awesome. I'm having the time of my life. Are you kidding?
But isn't it interesting, right? I mean, you have two, I'm using the term, not blowing smoke, to me, legends, right? I mean, and they both similar upbringing. Yep. Working the hot dogs, working the Greek restaurant, doing things by hand, interacting with the customer every day, interfacing. Yep. Small conversation when you're trying to figure something out. I mean, those intangibles are so tangible. It's like in the corporate world or now in my nonprofit world and what I do for a living, they use that term soft skills. And I tell people, it's really hard to do soft skills well, and it's really hard to have a conversation with people, what you do, you both do, who you can't see, you can't touch, might be having a bad day.
Oh yeah.
But yet it's compelling, and you have to do it every day. And you have to give them similar kind of feelings, but be a little different every day, and not sound planned and not sound forced, but everything's planned.
It's funny. I remember. I used to imbibe. I haven't drank for 20 years, but I made up for it earlier than that. But let me tell you, I never missed a skill, but I never complained. The one thing I couldn't handle, and I don't know if you're like this, Chris, I remember listening to a guy that was doing sports, and he goes, "Oh, I was out all night last night. I'm hungover." And nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear what they want to hear. You went out, you had a good time, you maybe went dancing, you went to the bar, you had a. But I mean, there's a guy driving a truck for like 12 hours, and you're sitting in your nice. Well, the studios are okay. You're sitting in your studio, you got your headphones on. You know, and all of a sudden you go, oh, you know, I'm so tired today. I refuse to. Every day you came out of the box hard, and you remembered, because I had worked for a living before I got into radio, that for 20, 25 years before that, you know what? People just want to be entertained. They don't want to hear that you had a problem. They don't want to hear that you're tired. That's always the way I always attacked, always made people laugh, but I never said, woe is me, like some hosts do today, especially the TV hosts.
I can I jump in? He is,
No, please.
Mike is
We'll allow it. Yep.
He's so right about that, because you know, you've got construction workers and people working on highways and tacking roofs and stuff. And the key word there that Mike used is entertain. We are entertainers, first and foremost. My first program director was a big burly guy that went to Bemidji State named Doug Westerman. And he used to say, I'm going to tell you 3 words that you're going to live by for me. And that is get to it. Get to it. And so, as Mike said, you come out hard. Nobody wants to hear. So, Jimmy, what did you do last night? No one cares. No, if the Hawks are playing and they just took on, I'm thinking back in the day when the North Stars would come in and Dino Ciccarelli and and all those people would be throwing bottles at the North Star bench, right? Or out here when Boise State comes in and it's a big game at Valley Children's Stadium on Monday at 3:05. Nobody cares about what movie I saw. What happened with the Dogs and the Boise State Broncos? So Mike's absolutely right. Get to it, entertain. You know, I'll just say this. I came from a classical theater background, and it was a wonderful thing. I loved it. But the reason it was Mitch Albom who actually pushed me into this. I was doing a play in Detroit. It was Mitch who got me into this. And the reason I left theater, fellas, and Darren knows this, is because I told stories with other people's words. I wanted to tell stories with my words. And instead of a 2.5-hour impact, I wanted to have a bigger impact in the community, a conversation, sitting at a bar, sitting in a diner, sitting at the Salt and Pepper Diner in Chicago, and we're having some eggs and steak, and then we come back the next day. That's why this work is so important, I think, to bond a community together.
And I think TV hosts have basically ruined some of the genre. I can't handle it. I really can't. And it's the same stuff. I really feel that sports radio now. I know this. I don't hear a lot of talk about, and I didn't hear a lot of talk for the past year or two about men and women's sports on sports radio. LeBron, Caleb Williams, the old stick. I think sports radio, because I know I would have been doing it if I had the show every day, like with Dan Jiggets or Fred Hubner or my buddy Doug Buffone back in the day. We would have just buried the men beating up on the women thing. We would have talked about that. We would have talked about the controversies. We would have talked about steroids. I was the first guy to bust Sammy Sosa, to say that guy is on steroids, and that I was proven to be right in Chicago. And I took heat for that, because no matter where you go, and you guys know this, in whatever city you're at, there's a swamp. There's a swamp of old school writers, coddlers, farmers. That's what they are. I was the outsider, and yet I was the guy that was taking the heat from the outside because I was disrupting. And I think that's what sports radio has done. It used to hold the teams accountable. Now we go through the nonsense. Who's better, LeBron or Jordan? Who was this? Who was that? It's redundant. You got to have more imagination than that.
Yes, and we've actually covered that a couple of times on the show about, like,
good.
You know, most things you miss a few episodes, you got to catch up. Like, you miss certain things with ESPN sometimes, and you've missed nothing. It's the same discussion every year, filling in. Meanwhile, the Dodgers and Giants can have an 11-inning, 12-11 game that ends on a walk-off grand slam. They get 4 seconds and a still photo, but meanwhile they'll spend 23 minutes on mock draft number 27 and LeBron James and discussing things.
If I hear one more time, you think Dak Prescott's going to be good? If I hear that one more damn time, okay, not for the money he's making. Let's move on.
I used to get a guy that would call me, and there's an area north of us on the way to Yosemite called Coors Gold, and his name was Sergio. And Sergio would call up and, hey, Chris, how you doing? Listen, I want to talk about the Giants. I have this idea for a trade. Sergio, thanks for the phone call. Nobody,
the words.
right? Nobody cares about your idea. You know what? The Giants, they're not listening. No, they don't care. They don't care about that. Your example, Mike, you will never, ever on my show hear about who's better, LeBron or Michael. Two reasons. One, it's Michael. Two, nobody cares. It's an argument. It's
You're right on both.
It never ends.
Nobody.
Yeah, never ends. So we actually have two questions in the chat, one for both of you. So I'll start with this one. This is for you, Christopher.
Okay.
So they wanted to get, it was from Soup Bead, interesting name, but he wants to ask about the Sacramento experiment, we shall call it. And he put, is it a hit or a bust? I think we know the answer, but go ahead.
This is I love that. What's his name? Soup Bud. I love that. That is fantastic. That's the guy that you want as a regular caller. Welcome, Soup Bud. How are you, bro? So we talked about this on my show a couple of days ago. The word you're looking for Sacramento is fail. It is an absolute fail. First of all, John Fisher is, and I know don't get me started on Reinsdorf, but John Fisher is the absolute worst. He had a deal. I had Libby Schaff, and again, roundabout to get to a point. I had Libby Schaff, the former mayor, on my show. They put so many great deals in front of John Fisher and their team president, Dave Covell, and they kept coming up with reasons why we can't do it. This reason, that reason, because he wanted the same deal that Mark Davis got in Las Vegas. Here's the rub. Nobody in Las Vegas actually wanted the Raiders to go there. They wanted to start their own team. They wanted to have something organic the way the Golden Knights started. But be that as it may, the mayor of Las Vegas, Carolyn, her name escapes me. I'll never forget what she said on my show. This is getting back to Sacramento. She said, we are so excited for Major League Baseball to come here. And if it's the A's, we'll support them too. How about that for don't come in? Sacramento, folks, that is a great sports town. They sold out the Kings at Arco Arena. They sell out at Golden One Center. It is a great sports town. The Sacramento State has got $35 million in the bank to build a new stadium. UC Davis is up there. They love their sports, but they don't want to play rent a team. They don't care about that. The outfield wall is all Las Vegas advertising. The place seats 14,000 and they can't sell out. The only team they really sold out for was the Cubs. And that was it. And it was mostly Cubs fans.
Yes.
So yes, again, brevity is not my strong suit. It's a fail. It's a fail, Mike.
Well, I just think the fact that they want to go by the name The Athletics, they don't even mention Sacramento, is just a horrible thing.
It is.
Yeah. And we showed last week on the show, when you look at the standings and then they're the only team without a city in front of them, it just looks awkward.
Well, that's the commissioner's fault too. He's made some good
100%.
moves. I like the shot clock. The pitch clock or whatever you want to call it. I like some of the things they've done, but I think past years, you wouldn't have two teams playing in minor league stadiums. No. I mean, that would never have happened. It's the major leagues. You bust your ass to get there. The next thing you know, you're playing like Chris says, instead of in front of 14,000 people.
Now I am happy, and that's okay. Like, sometimes people will disagree on things. That's what makes things entertaining sometimes. If that's where they're going to be for the year, I'm happy that they're going to get an opportunity. They have to make the playoffs first. They're still outside the playoffs, but
3 years.
Rather than them trying to play in Miami, Atlanta, somewhere else,
or
because they're stuck there this year, like, I'm happy with that. I don't want to see them there again next year, but I am happy that at least they made a plan. Although, as Darren and I know, they'll probably, if they do make the playoffs, get a Saturday 1:15.
Oh, you're talking about Tampa, but the Athletics are 3 years.
The A's. Like, the A's are there for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were talking about Tampa. Okay, I got you.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yep. But I had one other question, and I do want to talk a little bit of NBA and NFL stuff here, but I had one question. This one's for you, Mike. I can't see the exact question, but it's basically, so as you know, I'm from Florida, Darren's
right.
Up in Matt's. So is there a difference in the we know the Chicago dog, right? But if you go to Wrigley versus you go to to where the White Sox play there, is there a difference in hot dog between the two parks, or is it the same?
Yeah, ballpark food is ballpark food. If you're going to go to Chicago, though, and you're going to have a hot dog at a hot dog stand, I had 3 of them at one time, and I had a couple hot dog carts in the parks. Mustard, a Vienna dog, poppy seed bun, steamed, mustard, relish, onion, tomato, pickle, celery, salt, and a couple dynamite sticks, hot peppers. No ketchup, unless you're 7 or under. The guys used to come in and go, give me a hot dog with ketchup. I'd bury the guy. I'd go, get back in line. Get to the back. And the guy would be ready to order. He goes, I'd like 2 hot dogs with ketchup. I'd go, excuse me? And he'd go, with ketchup. And everybody, get back in the line.
It's not a bologna stick. It's not a bologna stick. No
He'd
ketchup.
come up. He goes, give me a plain one. And then
I think of the character in Seinfeld, the soup Nazi, like,
right.
Hot dog and ketchup, no hot dog for you.
That's right.
Mike, I got to tell you, I got a buddy in the newsroom here. He said to me, CG, if I come over, will you have mayo for a hot dog? I said, our friendship's over. Okay.
Mayo? Some people don't like mayonnaise. I like it on certain things.
I like it, but not on a hot dog.
Not on a hot dog, baby. Not on a hot dog.
I do have it's a short story or a short memory, but I have a favorite hot dog story. So my dad and I had season tickets for 4 years in St. Lucie for the minor league Mets. At the time, it was the high level A. Now they're the low level A. And I don't remember what year it was, but I remember going on a Thursday night. They had $1 hot dog night. But what they also would do, those guns that they shoot out into the crowd with T-shirts and things like that.
They shoot the dog.
Yeah. So I was walking back from getting, I think it was a taco salad or something at the time, and I'm walking back to the seat, and they're shooting these things into the crowd, and I'm walking up the stairs, and the guy next to me gets hit in the back of the head with the hot dog. And I'm talking, he got the hot dog in his mouth in less than 4 seconds. Like, it hit him in the back of the head. He looked on the ground, he picked it up, and he just started chewing. Like, he didn't even question it. It was like normal to him. So I just
5-second rule. There's a 5-second rule in his hands.
Well, it was wrapped up. It was in the thing, but he wasn't like, "What is this?" Whatever. He just saw it and put it in. And
there you go.
Yep. So, so I wanted to chat a little bit about some NFL stuff. Did you guys get?
Hold on, I got a question before we do. Just one last baseball question, because we kind of brought it up a little bit, talking about some of these minor league parks. And I'll start with you, Christopher, and then you, Mike, please answer this question. So I am privileged enough and lucky enough to go to Cape Cod League games right now. I go to work and I go right to these games. And it's wonderful. It's free. And you see some of this great talent. Are we going to get to a place where, especially you mentioned lower A, Mike, and high A, like minor league baseball, why would somebody want to ride the bus, make very little money when they can go to school, get a college degree, and get overpaid for being on a team?
Well, I think that's going to hurt the minor leagues. The minor leagues are a big investment. I mean, you brought up Jerry Reinsdorf earlier. Jerry Reinsdorf does not take care of his minor league teams. He doesn't. He barely takes care of the major league team. And I like Jerry. I've known Jerry for years, but he's lost touch in a way where their minor leagues were suffering. They weren't spending enough time with them. I think the college ways to go, like you said, Darren, because to be quite frank, back then, college baseball was non-existent in the 70s, 80s. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know who Robin Ventura was. We didn't know he had a 56-game hitting streak at Oklahoma State. We didn't know these guys. And all of a sudden, boom, it's become hot. So with Nil, and if you're talented, you'll get your Will Clarks from Mississippi State, your Rafi Palmeiros. I mean, they had Bobby Thigpen, Rafi Palmeiro, and Will Clark on the same team at Mississippi State. So they had 3 major leaguers on that team. I don't even know if they won it. They finished in the top 4. But I think that's the way to go now. But if you're a dumbass like I was, and I didn't go to school, and you got talent, then the minor leagues has got to be your way to go. So back then it was American Legion ball, semi-pro ball, and stuff like that. Now I would probably go to college route, like Darren says.
Yeah, I largely agree with Mike. This is such a complicated issue. It seems like it's changing every day right in front of us. The House versus NCAA. So schools are going to get $20.5 million. They're going to cap it at that. It's going to go up exponentially 4% each year the next couple of years. But the $20.5 million is going to be for all sports at a school. So I think what's going to be interesting to see is, and remember, when you sign in college baseball, you immediately have to make a 3-year commitment. You have to stay there 3 years, unlike college basketball. Football, I think you have to be to 20 years old, whatever it is, to get drafted. But baseball, you're staying there 3 years. I think if I take what Mike said maybe in a different direction, I think what's going to happen is the schools that put a higher emphasis on baseball, Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, USC, and stuff, I think you're going to see more money diverted to baseball, and you're going to see a smart choice of a player saying, I want to go to college. I can make serious cash there. I can get an education. I can leave in 3 years if I want to, come back, get my degree, or I can stay 4 years. But for the schools on the fringe of Division I, the Illinois states and the Wichita states and Cal State Bakersfield, they're not going to have the same money. And for players that aren't the elite level but are still good enough to get to the minor leagues, I think they're going to see more of them go to the minor leagues as opposed to college baseball. So I do agree, but it's just going to be interesting to see how this rolls out.
I had a spirited discussion with Jay Billis on Twitter, and Jay Billis was all for athletes getting paid. It's amazing. Athletes didn't need to get paid. They got a scholarship, a free education. I remember I asked my dad, I go, Dad, I'm thinking of maybe trying. Mom says I need braces. There was no student loans. There was no loans to get braces. I go, can I get braces? And he'd go, hand me the wrench. He was fixing his car. He didn't pay me no attention. Jay Billis, he thought everybody was going to get paid. Instead, he had a football player driving a Rolls Royce at Colorado, making millions of dollars. Okay. I knew this was going to be a mess. College is a mess right now as far as most of their sports, as far as their major sports, because of the money. All right. I am just mystified how all of a sudden kids with $5,000 worth of tattoos need to get paid. Okay. It used to be, it's $100,000 a year to go to college. That used to be something cool. You're going to get a scholarship. You're going to make something of yourself. Oh, I got to make $200 a game. Awesome. Really? Seriously, that's what it's come to. The greed. And I asked Jay, I go, you didn't have nil. You went to Duke, okay? And you've made about 30 million since, okay? Because you went to Duke, okay? So it's easy for you to say, but not everybody has those opportunities.
And to Mike's point, which is a good one, it's also part and parcel to what we see in players now. As soon as they lose their starting job, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. What happened to when we were growing up where you lose your starting job, you work your tail off to get your starter's job back?
LeMahieu quit the Yankees. Here's a guy I loved. He's hitting 256. Okay, he's having a bad year for him because he was a batting champ at one time. I was shocked. They bench him because they're not performing. And then the next thing you know, he goes, screw you guys. You owe me $22 million. It's unbelievable. I never thought I'd see a guy like him do that.
We have somebody in our chat brings up a great point. And, sports fan 654, the average minor leaguer makes like $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And you got to, at school, I'm going to use one, Fresno State, that CG knows about. I lived next to for 16 years. And we had the Twins on the basketball team that did well. And then they went to, Florida. I forget where they went. And they
went to Miami.
Went to Miami, yep. And so I got to state, right? Partial credit, kids. So they made their NIL money. Most people don't realize, right? Aaron Judge, Fresno State. And I bring that up because you have this option now. Now, granted, you're not going to get Notre Dame money. You're not going to get Tennessee money. But you're also not making $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's convoluted. It's difficult. There's no easy answers. I find it interesting, and that's why I wanted to lean into both you gentlemen because you've been around,
Yeah. It hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. The minor leagues have just sort of disappeared. They'll bring them up when they go, so-and-so's coming up from Charlotte, Tuesday, or, you'll look at batting averages and stuff like that. Baseball teams, especially the White Sox who rebuilt 4 years, they always lean on hyping the minor league players, and then they get up there. I went through the worst rebuild of all time in 2019, 2020. We heard, these guys are all going to be phenomenal. They had a couple good seasons, and the next thing you know, last year, these guys, most of them gone, they win 41 games. So, that's just the way. If you either want to spend to win or you want to lose and then keep a low payroll and make money, and that's what the Chicago White Sox are doing. The Cubs spend money. They go out and get guys, and they try to contend. The other side of town is more about making money for the partners and the ownership.
It is painful. I have to listen to people abuse me in a fun, good-natured way about the White Sox, and I always tell them, it's like, listen, you're never gonna rip the White Sox any more than I will for all the reasons that Mike laid out. It's like, you got an hour? You want me to give you the bullet points of all the things that are wrong with that friggin' organization?
Right. It's just been a terrible thing. They're getting better. They've been winning lately. They've won 6 out of their last 10. But I never thought when I was growing up as a White Sox fan that they'd win 41 ball games out of 62 ever. And I remember Charlie Finley trying to peddle Vita Blue, Sal Banta, Reggie Jack, and the commissioner said, "Hold on.
Yeah.
There's nobody doing that now. You can trade a whole team if you want." And the commissioner just sits back at home, waiting for the next game to come on and not really paying attention. It's really changed.
Mike, I grew up in the old park, and I grew up with Carlos May, Bill Melton, Louis Aparicio. I remember when Wilbur Wood threw both ends of the doubleheader. I mean, the fireworks shows and the twilight doubleheaders, the shower in center field.
Yeah,
I remember all of that. I'm still one of the old guard guys that still thinks, why couldn't they have done what Wrigley and Fenway did? Why couldn't they have figured out a way? I know the park was falling apart, but
it was gorgeous.
When you got the money, when you put the state legislature over a barrel at 11:58 at night, how about putting that money into the park? And Jerry, use some of your own money.
Yeah, I think that the baseball, and then they built the stadium, and it didn't really. I mean, the upper deck was like, I saw the blimp was actually below me. I was sitting in the upper deck. I go, "Hey, look!" I was pointing down. There's the Goodyear blimp. I like their digs now, but it's in a part of town now that's not as popular as it once was. Wrigleyville is just like a carnival. I mean, I joke around they should have a roller coaster every time there's a home run, where you can take the roller coaster comes out of the dugout and goes all the way around the park, with some guy, just like the Brewer guy that slides down the slide. It's just a carnival over there. Wrigleyville is one of the coolest places around. And I remember 30 years ago, and I'm sure you do too, Chris, when you could buy the buildings around there with the change in your pocket.
Oh my gosh, absolutely!
It was a ghetto.
Yes, I listen. I remember we were the 7100 block of Sheridan, Estes Avenue, up in Rogers Park.
Oh yeah.
And back in the day, we'd go to Wrigley, and it was basically sit wherever you like, And Comiskey was the same.
And the upper deck's closed during the week.
Yes, closed. Absolutely. And Jerry Reinsdorf and Mike hit on it that. Back in the day, Bridgeport wasn't a bad place. That whole area wasn't a bad place. You had families and great food stands and everything. Now, the way society is, folks don't want to go to the south side. They don't want to go to 35th Street. Doesn't matter that the L drops you off right there. And if they don't figure out a way, whether it's to go up on the river or go somewhere else, I don't know. They're never going to compete with the Cubs. They're just will.
I think when you look at ballparks, I mean, a lot of the ballparks.
That's brutal.
That's brutal. That a boy, Mike. I'll tell you what. The ballparks really. I mean, Ebbets Field. The reason they really got rid of Ebbets Field was because the neighborhood was going to hell.
That's it.
I mean, they don't say it. That it was like, look out. It had changed dramatically, and they moved. Okay, the Mets eventually came back. And they built there, but I mean, they built in Queens. But it's still a lot of ballparks moved because the neighborhoods got bad. A lot of ballparks have changed.
Mike's right. One of my close friends when I went to college on the West Coast, she and her family were from New Jersey, but the mother, who was a friend, was born and raised in Brooklyn, and she used to talk about going with the family to Ebbets Field. And she said it wasn't that rare that you'd see a rat walk by or something. And after a while,
two-legged or four-legged, two-legged or four-legged.
Right. So yeah, you're right. I mean that's one of the reasons, and it depresses me to see what's going on with the White Sox and with that park. And I mean, it's gotten a lot better.
I don't want to start.
And there are the Rockies this year, so they're not the worst.
Well, I mean, you look at baseball now, and a lot of the teams. I mean, they built new stadiums. I'm sure I haven't been to Target Field in Minnesota. I heard it's beautiful. Yeah. Now that they've stopped burning the city to the ground, Chris, maybe I'll take a trip up there someday. My God, I never thought I'd ever see Minnesota have issues like that. But You know what? It's a nice field. It's gorgeous. Did Joe Mauer really get his number retired? I mean, Joe Mauer, is he an icon there? Because it seems like Joe Mauer had the fastest career of all time. He was there, and then he was gone.
Yeah,
right?
I was there when he was coming out of high school. He had committed to Bobby Bowden. He was the player of the year, the USA Gatorade, whatever, player of the year. He was an unbelievable quarterback. But when the Twins who had the first choice in the draft, told him, "We're going to take you," he said, "Bobby, I'm sorry, I'm staying." And he is an absolute, to this day, still iconic there.
He's
absolutely,
and he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
Because he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
I want to ask Chris. So I'm going to bring up 3 topics here. 2 of which are NFL. 1 is NBA. I'm going to hit you with 3 here, and then if you wouldn't mind, just kind of giving us your synopsis on that here. So, wanted to ask you, number 1, what we made of the first one's Cleveland Brown related, because we're talking about the White Sox, so let's go to the Cleveland Browns. But want to ask that what you thought of that viral video of the new helmet and then the falling into the water nonsense, and then it almost looks staged in a way, like I don't know. But so I want to ask you though, because they're talking about the GM of the Browns mentioning that they could actually keep 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. So wanted to get your thoughts on that. Wanted to see Chris Paul is returning to the Clippers this year for his 21st season. That's a big deal. So wanted to see what you thought there, and then what to expect Chicago Bears 2025 season. I know. We talk wrestling on the show a lot, and Seth Rollins is from WWE. He's a huge Chicago Bears fan. He's at almost every home game that he can be at, and so I just want to see, is there any hope this year? Any promising tidbits you can share with us? So
I'm going to take the Bears question first, because as Mike would agree, there's always hope. Always hope. I am probably, like Mike, a quintessential Bears fan. As soon as the Bears win a preseason game, I'm going to work. I'm going to KMJ in my jersey. As soon as they lose, I'm like, they're done. They're garbage. It's terrible. I am so excited by Ben Johnson. I think he is legit. I love the way he thinks. I love that he brings physicality, legit physicality. He wants physicality on both sides of the ball. He wants it in special teams, and that fits the mold of our city. That fits Chicago to a T. Caleb Williams, my alma mater, I think he's taken a lot of shade, and understandably so, because it's not worked out for him. But he's not had the right coaches. He's not had the right players. He's not had the right offensive playbook. And I think that this year, I really believe we're going to see a very different Chicago Bears team. I don't think the playoffs are out of reach. They're not going to the Super Bowl this year, nothing like that. But I think we're going to see a very different team. And, I don't need to tell Mike this. This is a hungry town. Wow. I mean, right. It is hungry. In fact, before I answer the other 2 questions, I'm curious what Mike thinks, because
I thought they should. I liked Mitch Trubisky, and they got rid of him. They added Justin Fields. Mitch Trubisky was 29-21. As a quarterback. They went to the playoffs twice in 4 years. They got rid of him. They brought in Justin Fields. He bombed out. Caleb Williams, of Pro Football Focus, ranks him 29th this year. I kept hearing from my West Coast friends at Visson, Paulie Howard, Mitch Moss. He was generational. No, generational is Peyton Manning. Generational is Danny Marino. Caleb Williams played in the worst, and I mean the worst, defensive conference in the history of college football. The USC team that year that he practiced against was 105th defensively. Okay? You get into the NFL, you don't have the 5 seconds anymore. He's having trouble adjusting. He's having trouble with timing. I like what you said about Ben Johnson, but who made all the decisions to change Detroit? Who made the decisions to go for it on 4th down?
Right.
Not Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach for the first time. Caleb Williams is on his 3rd coordinator. His 3rd already. Okay, because Walden got fired last year. They're picked for 4th place. Surprised me. I've been here. I went to the 63 championship game. I was 9 years old. And I heard my uncle say, there'll be more where this came from. And then I was in my 40s and the 85 Bears came around. And then it's been a long time since. You said hope earlier, Chris. I have it for the Bears right now. The only hope I have for the Bears is shocking. But the only hope I've seen lately is false hope. So let's see what happens.
I need to see, as somebody who watched every SC game that he was in out here, I need to see the gap bridged between what I saw him do at USC and what he hasn't done with the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
You made a point. I'm sorry. Your second question was the one that I missed. The first one was about the Browns.
The Browns, and then I wanted to on the NBA talk.
Paul.
I know we're kind of in between, but
Chris Paul,
21st season back with the Clippers.
Paul, he had 3 or 4 different options. It's his 21st year in the NBA. His family is in Los Angeles. He wanted to be there. He's going to be a bench guy. He's not going to be starting. Those days are over. He might have a couple of games here and there where he's going to get a double-double because he's playing against a lower-level team. The Clippers have made a string of bad moves over the years. I mean, when they got Kawhi Leonard, they won they thought that he was going to bring them a championship like he did in Toronto. That didn't work out. Paul George, when they made that move for him, the Paul George trade basically allowed Oklahoma City to win the title this year. When you look at what Oklahoma City got, they have a good owner. They had a miserable owner before that. But I think that this team, Chris Paul, is going to be more of a locker room force. He's going to be that guy that's going to be able to tell some of the young guys, here's how the game is played. Here's what you do. But I don't think he's going to move the needle in their beautiful new arena. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, he's never won a title.
No.
Chris Paul. He's a what I call regular season hero. Okay. I call Aaron Rodgers that. Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre were regular season heroes. They won 2 Super Bowls in 30-some years. Okay. These guys, they're stat stuffers. You know, there's a lot of guys that will disappear in place. I think one of my, you brought up the guy, Paul George.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I've never gotten it. To me, we got Paul George. Good. Enjoy not. I'm happy for you. Enjoy being knocked out in the first round, and I'll be over here.
Mike, the guy that
I don't get it. I never.
The guy that no, I'm totally in agreement with you. The guy that I've said that about for years, and I've said on the air forever, that any team that James Harden is on will never win a championship.
Agreed.
Will never win a championship. That guy, the beard and this and that, he's probably got, I don't know what's going on with that guy, but any team he's on, they're not winning anything.
Forget it.
And then the Cleveland Browns, you said it. The video had a feel of being staged, which is neither here nor there because that's not the first. There's millions of them out there. I don't know. Mike probably has a better read on the Browns than I do.
When they signed that Deshaun Watson for $250 million, it was literally the stupidest thing they've ever done. They gave him $250 million of guaranteed. The whole thing was guaranteed. Dumbest ownership in all of football, which had to piss the other owners off because that hike. Now you see guys like Dak Prescott we talked about making $40 million. Guys are making $45, $50 million, but it's not as bad as football's not as bad as the NBA. I mean, I was watching the free agency with the NBA. They had a guy named I can't even remember his name, John Roberts Macumba. Signed for $60 million with Atlanta for 4 years. I never heard. You got all these fringe players that are making all this big money. I don't want to hear any of these owners saying they're starving, and that goes for every sport. I mean, the baseball uniform. I see 12 uniforms that teams wear now. The basketball uniforms. The Boston Red Sox wear green sometimes. I mean, they got so much money, these people. It's like a baseball season. If you own a team, own a baseball team. If you have 81 home games, it's like having a sellout on a Broadway show for 81 days a year. Can you imagine? I mean, people come to watch. I mean, the Cubs were a last place ball club forever, and people are paying big money to get in just because they can drink beer and enjoy the park.
Let me throw one more name into the mix here because I've hammered this guy over and over and over. My alma mater, Bronny James. Bronny James averaged 4.8 points off the bench on one of the worst USC teams in USC basketball history. And listen, SC has had some great teams over the years. The problem back in the day is that when they only took one team from a conference, they had that team 11 miles away named UCLA, so they couldn't get in. But Bronny James initially turned down like a $45 million contract. Dude, you're playing 90 seconds a night, and they're offering you a fortune because they want to keep dad there. That was the whole reason.
Yeah. No, so what I'd like to do, one thing I love about this show, too, is like we don't ask those cookie cutter questions where it's just like we like to have fun. We like to share stories. So my final question, and then Darren, I'll give you your final question as we have a few minutes left here on the show. So my final question, I'll start with you, Chris, and then we'll go to you, Mike. Is,
I have to stop you right there. You keep starting with me, which is nice.
That's all right. Go ahead.
But
You're
Mike
the-
is
you're
the
the
guy with the
handsomest
name
one.
above the marquee. He's
Go ahead.
the guy.
I'm going to give you a little inside baseball. You ready? We go alphabetically. We do that every week. Seriously.
Okay,
we do
so-
that. That's how we do
Switch
it. That's
this
how
up.
we do it because,
We'll go with-
you know,
I love it. I love
Eagles,
it.
we just do it alphabetically.
Perfect.
that works. So we'll go left to right. So I'll go with you, Mike. Then. We'll switch it up.
Oh, for Christ's
Spontaneity
sake.
here. Okay. So
Christ,
Um,
see, okay, that goes, no, okay.
So we've talked about the majors, some of the major sports and stuff. I want to strictly look at college here, college football, college basketball. Okay, we'll keep it to those two. On a rare occasion where you're not having to put any hours in to do any kind of work, any sort of thing like that, if you have a day where you're good to go, like if you can binge college basketball all day or college football all day, you know that you've got the approval. It's not going to be a big deal. There's no honeydew list, nothing. What is your day like? Like, is there a lot of Doritos involved? Is there lounging the whole time? Is there getting other stuff done while you're watching the game? I want to hear from both of you what your ideal day would be if you had, if there was no limitations in terms of your prep. Do you want people over? Do you want to watch it by yourself? Love to hear that. And strictly on college. We're talking about college, like the college experience. Yeah.
Well, you got to Northwestern Illinois. I got to deal with. Okay, that's not the best. That's not the best thing. But I watch a lot of college football because I gamble, and the 11 o'clock games, the 2:30 games. But my wife, she's out. She'll go out. I stay home. I do what I want to do. It's part of prep. I mean, that's the good thing about being a sports talk show host, guys. I gotta work. I gotta watch that doubleheader with Detroit and Baltimore. I got money on the game. So that's basically it. I don't have a lot of interruptions anymore. I used to go out all the time, and I'd be in the bars, and I'd be writing what I was going to talk about or try to remember what I saw on TV on cocktail napkins. And at the end of the night, I'd come home, and I could tell that the cocktail napkins that I had. This was at 7 o'clock because I can read it. By 2 o'clock, it looked like Chinese. Okay. I go, what the hell did I write here? But I've always been blessed that I didn't. My wife, and we don't have any kids or anything like that. We have a dog. That's the only thing. He always wants to go out when there's a team on the 1 yard line ready to go. He goes, hey, let's go. You know what I mean? So that would be it. Yeah,
I know a completely different scenario, but like, I'm one of the positions that I hold is children's director at my church, and for the kids ministry, and everything can be going great. And as soon as you put that teacher hat on, okay, this is the time we're going to open the Bibles. Every Susie, Mitch, Dick, and Harry's got to go to the bathroom, and at that exact moment, it's just like, oh no, just conveniently, right now is the time I've got to go, and so we can't force them to not go, but we have to kind of remind them, like, okay, but next time, So,
well, I'll tell you what. So I have two daughters. My wife and I have two daughters. 21-year-old lives in Southern California, and the 18-year-old is still here. She's going to be going to college this fall. So I can watch college football all day. My wife will come in. It'll be 1 a.m, and she'll say, for the love of God, what are you doing? I said, it's Mount Union and Wittenberg. It's a big Division III matchup. I got to watch it. That's one thing. My daughter, love her to death. It'll be Alabama, Tennessee from Neyland Stadium. It's 3rd and 7 from the 9-yard line. It's 49-49. And Cadence comes in and goes, Daddy, I was wondering, hold on, honey. Is there a fire in the house? She'll say, no. Because unless there's a fire in the house, please get out of this room right now. And if there is a fire, tell your mother to handle it. Because I can't. I get 3rd and 7. The Vols are on the 9-yard line. So that, and whether by myself or whatever, I like people over. Like watching with family. I don't always do sports bars if they have music on. If they have music on, why do you have the game?
Yes.
Monitors? Take the music. I don't need to hear Hootie and the Blowfish back in their great days. I want to hear what's going on in the game. So, yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because we all think that for sure. And I don't mind watching the game by myself at all. I prefer to have a couple people over if it's a bigger game. But the hard part is when they start the game so late. And so something like, I remember my wife's the Rays fan. I remember the Rays Dodgers series, and I'm like, I can't make a single noise because everyone's sleeping all over the house. And I'm like, so it's like, I don't mind being alone, but then if everyone's sleeping, you got to kind of like reel it in. It's hard to do when something awesome happens, So, but Darren, your final question on your end for the panel here.
So I'll just stick to 3 sports, and I'm going to start with Mike this time. How's that? See, we're going to go reverse.
Which Mike? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, which Mike? Right. Host always go last. Okay.
Then I got to go. Then I got to go. I got something. I got to do something else.
Yes, the last.
Yeah. Well, this last question.
Yeah.
In your whole lifetime, pro football, pro baseball, and college football.
Oh.
Your best announcers you've ever heard doing that game.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. I think Howard Cosell was the best who's ever done what he did. Howard Cosell was a guy that I wanted to be like him, where I was like a blue collar guy. 50% like you, 50% may be mad at you, but they're not going to shut you off. And that was the magic of him. The people said we're going to throw the brick at the TV, but we're not going to shut off the TV. Okay. We'll throw the brick. We may miss, and there may be a big play. I think that the best multifaceted announcer, I'm going to date myself, Kurt Gowdy, Chris Schenkel, Lindsey Nelson. I mean, today they're paper cuts. I mean, Joe Buck wouldn't make the top 10 back when I was growing up. You had so many. Keith Jackson, Lindsey Nelson. I mean, Kurt Gowdy, Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford was solid. All these guys, and they all had different voices. Now everybody does the same. Remember Lindsey Nelson? How you doing, everybody? I'm Lindsey Nelson.
And that sports coat.
Yeah, nobody. Everybody's like straight ahead now. Not a lot of joking. They tend to drift now. There'll be a baseball game, 3-1, and they won't call the next 2 pitches because they're talking about the pizza they had last night. We were just talking about that earlier. Do the damn game. Do the game. Do it with style. And, now they got the sideline reporters. Hi, guys. I'm having an ice cream cone. The ice cream's now 35 cents downstairs here at Wrigley. Bye. It's just nonsense now. So that's my take, guys.
Yeah, it's a fashion show on the sideline. But Mike already picked some of the names. I got to tell you, some of the greatest stories that I ever heard on the air when I was living in New York City, and Phil Rizzuto was in the booth for the Yankees. And I'll never forget one night. He's in there. This one, Bill White was still in the Yankees booth. And we're in the 6th inning, and the Yankees are playing the Orioles. And Rizzuto goes, I gotta tell you, White, Anthony Scaramucci brought me this bottle of vodka, and I've knocked off about half of it, and I don't know how I'm going to get home tonight. And you would hear those stories.
Harry Carey did a game in his underwear. Harry did it.
It's a true story.
Holding a big net. Holding a net for the foul balls. Standing up with the horn-rimmed glasses. No shirt on. Bare-chested, the gut, and a pair of boxer shorts.
You can't make it up.
Today he'd be arrested.
Yes.
Today.
You can't make it up. But
I gotta go, guys.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
I love you, Darren. I love you, Mike. I'll do it again. I had another thing I got to do. Chris.
Oh, that's all right. We're about to round it up. So
we're about to go.
I love you guys.
Be well. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye, fellas.
See you later.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now. So, Chris, pro football. Who's doing your pro football game?
Yeah, I'm with him on Howard Cosell. He mentioned he had the names Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, because he was so steady. And you had that booth of Monday Night Football with Frank, Dandy Don, and Howard. You had Howard doing the halftime highlights where he'd give you a highlight. He'd go, but wait, just when you thought the game was over, here come the Packers. You had that. College football, Keith Jackson, no doubt. I think Sean McDonough is fantastic doing college. As far as baseball goes, I go way back. Let me give you a hockey. Hockey is what I want to give you.
Sure.
Lloyd Pettit from the Chicago Blackhawks, because he originated the call. He never said he scores. He always said, it's a shot. Bobby Hall down the right, a shot and a goal. And that's how he would call the games. And we used to get games in Chicago where they didn't broadcast the first period. They came in on the second period. It was an advertising thing. So guys like him, Dan Kelly, the old St. Louis Blues announcer, who was great. Gene Hart, the Flyers, the late Gene Hart, he would go to the Garden and they put a net. Remember, the visiting broadcast booth was way up top, and they had a net in front of him because people hated him. And Gene Hart would be going, well, we're in Madison Square Garden tonight, and of course the animals are loose here in the Garden. But football,
like the Blues Brothers singing in that cowboy bar.
Yeah. And Lindsey Nelson, I'm with him on Lindsey Nelson, Tennessee guy. And of course, I grew up with Lindsey Nelson on Sundays doing Notre Dame highlights.
Notre Dame highlights. That's how I grew up. Yep. Absolutely.
And Lindsey was great. Lindsey Nelson, his home was across the Tennessee River from Neyland Stadium. And they used to say that he would sit on his porch with a telescope and watch the game when the south end of the stadium wasn't enclosed. And he would sit up there and watch it. And that's why the baseball stadium at Tennessee is named Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Yep.
That's amazing. And
so I just want to give you a name for mine for football. And again, Monday Night Football almost should be in its own separate thing.
Yes.
Back then. It was much watched television. But when I think of 70s NFL, the voice I hear in my head is Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, he had that great voice. Mike talked about it. They were all
so
distinct.
For me,
go ahead, Mike.
I would have to pick. I mean, of course, I love what the Mets commentators are doing now. I'm biased. I'm a Mets fan. I love what they're doing. I wish we would get the 3-man booth more often. But Vin Scully for me,
Vin Scully
is the guy. I remember, and it's not the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of, I remember it was a 3-2 ball game. I don't know why I remember that. So I think it was because I'm like, why is he talking about this? It's not a blowout, but it was like in the 4th inning. And he makes a comment. The game was, of course, on at like 10 o'clock because it was Braves and Dodgers, I think it was. And Vin Scully says something to the effect of, when Ryan Klesko was in the 4th grade during recess, he liked to play, Double Dragon on his Game Boy, but it wasn't his favorite game, but he really enjoyed his strawberry ice cream. And I'm thinking about, like, these notes, like, where did they come from? What he would do during recess in school.
And he was by himself.
We mentioned Keith Jackson. What I loved about Keith Jackson, always, I didn't care if the game was a game that I didn't care about. His open, I can hear him in my head when he'd say, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Birmingham, Alabama. It's Legion Field. The fine young men in crimson and white from Alabama taking on the men from the plains, the Auburn Tigers. And he did these. They did these beautiful opens. And I always wondered if Vin Scully, who influenced who, because Vin would always be like, as the sun shades, sets behind Chavez Ravine. You always had that. And these great, they were storytellers. And that's what I think
that's what they were.
We don't have the same storytellers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you never knew that until his last goodbye, Vin Scully was a Giants fan growing up. Like, you never knew that.
Never knew.
Yeah, I did. I'm curious because you piqued my interest. So I had a shout out to Google, but I had to ask, I had to find out real quick who Vin Scully's, his who he learned from and stuff like that. And so it actually says that he learned from Red Barber, voice of the Brooklyn Dodgers. So, but yeah, so I was curious about that. But yeah, and Joe, you mentioned John Madden and Pat Summerall. So that's a good call out there, Joe. So this was so much fun. I'm so glad that we got the whole group here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on your 100th, and it was great to meet Mike.
Yeah,
and I kind of saw. He had it's funny because when I first sent the message out, you're like, "Oh, I'm on the show," and but then you did something in the afternoon, so you had a full slate. So I appreciate you jumping on with us this evening and making this really special. So I really appreciate that, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to go rest up a little bit, and but thank you so much. So everyone watching, thanks for all the support, all the engagement in the chat. We love it. Did gain a few subs tonight, so appreciate that. A lot more likes. So thank you so much. So until next time, guys, and it will be a next time, we'll see you where? We'll see you around the ballpark. See you guys.
There he is.